Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. Today I want to share with you a clip from a recent live event. Myself and Skeeter are going to be hanging out. He's a time and attention brother, and we're going to be discussing collectible card games, both tabletop as well as Web 2. And then we're going to talk about how some of our audience enjoying Splinterlands today is already from that ilk and that background. And I actually, like you, I think there's going to be a real growth in that player base. And those people get what Splinterlands could be. And I think that's the exciting, that's the angle we need to play. The viewer who understands a collectible card game, that's who we want. And so people like Skeeter, it's fun to hear his story and how he got involved in this. And then we go into speculation about the mini set and what that could be and what sort of partnerships and how we could grow the future partnerships, and bigger IPs. And there's a little bit of dreaming in this one. So I hope you'll stick around for this one. It was a fun conversation. Before we get into it, though, I got to say shout out to SplinterCoach. SplinterCoach is a website that will track your personalized battle history, meaning how often do you win, how often do you lose, which summoners and monsters are you winning and losing with, what are the parameters like rule sets and mana caps that you're using them within. And there's going to be two things that you get out of it. For $5 a month, you're going to get data that's going to be fun to look at, but also two, it's going to provide utility and help you win more often. If you believe in the future of Splinterlands, you should want more rewards now in the bear market. And this tool is going to help you unlock that. So check it out, $5 a month, splintercoach.com. Thanks, guys. Have an amazing day. God bless. Hey, guys. Infidel 1258 here. I am hanging out with Skeeter. And we are going to be talking about some Splinterlands topics. We're going to be talking about cards, and we're going to be talking about rental prices. We'll see where the conversation leads. Want to see what you guys are talking about and asking questions about too today. Skeeter, do you want to introduce yourself? And you've already been here before. You've introduced yourself before, but this may be clipped. And so context-wise, can you just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on, Dwayne. So I'm been playing CCGs for about maybe like 8-10 years or something now, and I'm just tired of throwing money away Web 2 gaming right now. So it's hard for me to throw in more than $50 into a Web 2 game nowadays. So I'm really optimistic about Splinterland in the future, even with all the negativity going around.
Yeah, totally. Hey, that's the thing in some ways for me too. Like I'm still, so I don't know if you know this about me, but I like a game called Lord of the Rings living card game. And when games are like the living card game, it usually means there's a collectible element to the cards that you're using, and there's new expansions that will add new battles and new lore that you can explore. And then of course that means new villains, which means new heroes, which means new armor and abilities. And there's some power creep. It's very similar in some sense to like a Splinterlands experience, except it's more of a 4-player cooperative where you're trying to beat the NPC. It's not an NPC. It's like essentially the luck of the draw on how the bad guy cards draw. But it's a lot of fun. I love it. I'm going to my buddy's house tomorrow night to play and hang out and we eat pizza. We hang out all night long. We play that game. But my point in bringing it up is you mentioned how expensive it can be to play these games where you have to collect the cards. And when there's a Web 2 experience, or when there's even a tabletop experience where there's no avenue or path to some possible recovery or profit, it's a totally different world and mechanism and sort of than what Splinterlands might be with its possible profitability. I think there's a certainty of profitability within Splinterlands as long as you're committing your time and attention for a long time horizon. But some will say they don't buy the high likelihood, but you have to admit, if you want to say there's no likelihood of profitability in Splinterlands, I think you're out to lunch. I think there's at least some avenue here, whereas with a Magic the Gathering or with like a LOTR living card game, you're spending money, and that's fun. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. But I'm saying there's zero probability of profitability there. And here we have something different, don't we?
Totally. And when you try to sell like paper in-person cards, there's a lot of friction to do it. Like you sell a common that's worth 25 cents and you have to package it and then play it stamp worth 78 cents, where it doesn't really make sense. So a lot of your cards that you think are worth money, if they're under $1, you can't really sell them for much.
And there's issues of wear and tear with real physical cards, whereas with NFTs, you can borrow them out through rental programs, through Peak Monsters or whatever, and they come back to you in perfect working order, not diminished, no possible theft or problems like that, and so that's totally different too.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the problems you alluded on would be like, you ship out this $50 card and you don't pay for tracking for it or insurance, and then the recipient says they never received the card, and then you're out of all the monies.
Yeah. That's interesting to have that. There's a growing number of people that I know in Splinterlands that are echoing your story in that background of, the collectible card games and walking in that. It's encouraging because it implies that the attention that is still here are people that truly understand what this could be. And I'd rather have a core group of people attending to Splinterlands that really recognize the power and the fun of a collectible card game and what blockchain brings to that conversation, as opposed to even hundreds of thousands of people who are, just here to leech value at the bronze level, like when bronze rewards were quite high. Or another example, or don't really get it, don't really like it, but think there's a financial opportunity, so I'll be here for a week or a month or a season so that I can gain from this. But truly, people that are actually interested in the gameplay mechanics, the card development, and everything else that Splinterlands is so focusing on.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of aspects going on it for sure, but I just want to go back, and I hope you enjoy your in-person gaming experience with your friends. That's kind of the one thing that keeps me drawn to Magic, is I like to play in person with friends at a card shop occasionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's it too. The thing about Web3 gaming and what blockchain brings to something like Splinterlands, I'm excited by what it could be and what I think it will be. I really I walk in obviously a high degree of confidence. I mean, $50,000 or $60,000 worth of resources in this thing. That says something about my confidence with what Splinterlands will one day be. But interestingly, I sometimes feel that our viewers or the participants in this space feel if we don't become, like a Magic the Gathering type household name or a Hearthstone, that we can't land in a place of significant success. And I totally don't agree. I think, with probably, 15, but probably between 5 and 20,000 real people playing this game right now. And that's a total guess, but I know that there was 3,000 people who participated in the Great Burning, who burnt at least one DEC, which implies, there's at least 3,000 people who are doing that. But there's no real reason to burn one DEC except to test that exact question. And so I suspect there's more people because you really need to burn you needed to burn 3,500 DEC in order to get one raffle ticket in that process. And so there's probably lots of people who play, but we're like, I'm not going to spend $5, like $3 or whatever, $2 worth of DEC on a raffle ticket to win something I probably am not going to win. So I actually think there's probably between 5,000 and maybe even 10,000, possibly a little more real human players playing the game. And that's such a huge growth from where it was literally, 300-400 people playing daily. And so again, I don't think we need to be a Hearthstone type thing to have significant multiplication, to have a real opportunity for growth. I think, if we can still be modest, we can be niche even, and yet be really excited about where that will bring those who are participating now, those who are gaining assets now, soulbound cards that one day will be transferable, SPS for every battle that one day won't be issued for battles, etc. All adding up to, fill a portfolio that one day could really be meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that Hearthstone sentiment for sure, where, it took me a while I started out as a casual CCG player playing Hearthstone, where they cater to the casual, and there's a lot of RNG, and there was like some pro players who spent like literally hundreds of hours a month trying to get the highest win rate possible. Mm-hmm. But then they just found out that it was better just to play more games because there's so much RNG in the game. While Splinterlands is a little more, I would say, hardcore game where it's less forgiving because there's a lot less RNG. So it hits a little different market, but I can definitely see how like the CCG market growing and expanding over the past like 10 years where Hearthstone blew up and then a lot more people are getting into CCGs like Marvel Snap and stuff. And maybe when people get tired of those games, they become a little more experienced and might move on to Splinterlands after, they pour a few $100s into that and get nothing out.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for the joy of a game, like we were alluding to with you going to play Magic still, or me playing the LOTR. But man, if you can have joy, and maybe this is just an if, but if you can have joy and simultaneously extract like some sort of reward, that's really exciting. That's totally different. And I think that's what Splinterlands provides. But that's why I always say, like, you gotta ask yourself the question, like, does Splinterlands, is it fun and rewarding? Like, is it fun and does it have a future? Like, if you think it's fun, you can enjoy and enjoy that fun aspect and just quietly let that accumulate into something, and then be surprised one day if it adds up to something meaningful. And I think it will, but really, again, if it's fun, you almost don't need to worry about whether it's going to be rewarding. You just kind of enjoy the process. But the cool thing is that it could. It just, and I think it will. So
you're talking about Lord of the Rings in your card game. Well, yep. And we were talking about Magic the Gathering. Well, Magic the Gathering just had their Lord of the Rings set released like this week pretty much, or next week or something.
Yeah.
And I want to give a shout out to my brother, Sky 11 Slide. He bought me the like bundle for Lord of the Rings sets, and I got like some of the cool promo cards, and also got like a Sauron. It comes with like the One Ring and these other cool cards. You get like Bilbo Baggins and Legolas and all these other awesome cards. So it's pretty cool. That just came out, and I just watched a video about like an MTG finance guy who says that this is changing everything, where they're just going to go with a lot more like expensive IPs going forward, because everyone's just so happy for this set right now coming out.
Really cool. That's really cool that you say they're going to be looking at like essentially transforming the IP that they look at, they reach out to and they pay for, as opposed to kind of just being that creative. You're saying that they're seeing the excitement in people and their audience, and now they're willing to pay the price that would be involved in having like big name IP. That's really cool.
Exactly. It's kind of like the same thing in Splinterlands, where we got like the Waka Flocka promo, and then we're going to have this new IP set come out, and people are worried about, the identity of the cards and stuff and the art and stuff, but people are just eating it all up. And I actually just signed up for like a survey for MTG to like get some free money and cards. And the questions were about, do you want the X-Men and Avengers IP combined with the Watchmen and like Jurassic Park and all these other things?
Nice.
So I think they're moving towards that direction.
Cool. Do you think that Splinterlands is actually going to sort of there'd probably be a process of almost paying like the ticket, you know what I mean? Paying the piper, paying like probably a sizable value to see one of those big names kind of come on board. Do you suspect we will have that sort of power and that sway, and maybe we'll be able to pull triggers on sort of deals like that, or not?
Yeah, I think so eventually. It's just I kind of realized is with this set, everything's kind of, like a box of cards, instead of being like 120 or whatever, it's like 180.
Yep.
So it's quite a bit more. But, if we get to bring in that extra crowd, and, the cards are really cool and powerful and stuff like they did at Magic, I think Splinterlands could definitely get some other cool IPs. Like you mentioned, like an anime IP, I think that would fit really well.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
And it wouldn't be like nearly as expensive as like Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting to think through, like how things could, if we really saw one of these days, I think we will be surprised by the IP partnerships that happen. Right now, I don't know that this new mini set that we're expecting in the next weeks or months will be one of these blow away, IPs. They keep mentioning some sort of like studio or film. Do you have any guesses, or do you have any like vision for what that might be? I don't have huge hopes, let's put it that way, but do you have any thoughts or expectations on that?
I remember you asked this last time, and I haven't really thought about it much since then. I have no idea who it's going to be. I'm trying to keep expectations a little lower. because, you know, this is one of the first big IPs that we're having. So I'm not expecting, you know, Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones or anything like that. But I think there's definitely room in the marketplace. Like even like a Netflix show could be pretty big. Like the one with like, I forget what it's called, like one with the monsters and they were like lost somewhere. Or aliens and stuff, but I didn't watch it. It was just really big. So I think like any of the big Netflix shows that have been really big in the last like 3 years, and you know they're ready for a new season, they could have an IP with Splinterlands.
That'd be really cool, because if you saw a partnership with something that came out of like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime or something, like a show that was from one of these. Because even Netflix and Amazon Prime, in some sense, are in their own lane, like a revolution on that sort of space. Like think of how many people. I don't know how old you are, but I'm old enough to remember when TV was like you had 20 channels, and like TV was on during the day, and it wasn't on at night because they didn't. It was like it was on when it was on. You had to like get a TV guide and see when your show came on, as opposed to all this on-demand stuff. And so now it's flipped on its head where like TV still exists, of course, but man, even with PVR where you can record whatever it is you want to record, I mean, I don't know anybody who does that. Like, I mean, yes, it's cool to have access to maybe live sports or to news, but man, if it weren't for live sports or news, I think that media would just die, and you'd see things like, you know, you would see Netflix and you would see Amazon Prime be like the only source of television, Apple TV, etc., because people want that experience of on demand. They want what they want. Like it's like a more of a buffet as opposed to I have everything. I'm like going to go select from the buffet what I want, when I want, and as much of it as I want. And so then if Netflix was, for instance, to come partner in something like this, it would be, in some sense, I doubt it, but I'm saying like it would be neat because like they're almost visionaries within their own space, and it'd be like one more way that they're bringing like a new technology forward by partnering in something like giving some of their IP to something like this. And frankly, I suspect you could imagine a partnership where Splinterlands almost pays them to allow that to happen, and then they get pleasantly surprised by the results in the payment that they receive through the card sales or whatever. So I don't know. We'll see what it ends up being. They've been really hush about it though, haven't they? They haven't really said anything about the actual IP, and even the release dates now seem like they're being pushed back.
So I'm 31, and I remember reading the TV guides when I was younger and always getting hyped for that on Sundays to look at the newspaper and stuff. But yeah, so what you're talking about, how like the evolution of TV has gone to like more power to the users where they get less advertisements. And when I was younger, I'd be like, I'd be willing to pay double for TV to have no ads. And now there's Netflix for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
So people really like that, and I think it's providing power to the users. And I think Splinterlands is doing a similar thing where it's taking away the profits from like Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering, and it's actually putting the profits into the users. So I think this could be like a more common trend when when the word gets out about Splinterlands. And I just thought of a new guess for this IP. It could be the Witcher series, as they had a card game called Gwent that came out a few years ago. And Gwent was really popular at first, but there was like no RNG in it. So those like super pros loved the game and just like won all the tournaments. But it was kind of hard to watch from a viewing standpoint. So it wasn't really that popular, and it came out like 4 or 5 years ago or something, 6 years ago. So I think, the Witcher series already went into like a CCG called Gwent. It's like GWENT.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that.
And it was really cool. I liked it. I never played it. I just watched people play it. But, they're already in CCG, so I can see them coming out to another one. Maybe not this IP. We might get a little smaller IP this time around. But in the future, I think it would be a good party to reach out to.
Interesting. Cool thought anyways. Even, like you say, even if it's not this one, that could be something that, like if there's a success or on the back of a bull market, this is something where they've already shown that they're interested in that space, and then maybe they could be, brought in. That's cool.